Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Heather Hartley, and I am the Executive Director of Audience Architects, which is the service organization for dance that is hosting and presenting this evening's program. We are really all about building audiences, so our mission as a nonprofit is to build and engage dance audiences and advocate for Chicago dance. And I can't think of a much better way to do that than to gather together a wonderful group of Chicagoans and artists from Chicago and around the country to talk about the power of dance and its resonance in our culture. So I'm thrilled to welcome you all, and I want to just give you a little bit of an overview of how this evening's going to fly. The conversation will run for about an hour, and then we will have around 15 minutes or so for a Q&A. And then following that, we're going to have a reception with delightful, tasty treats by Food for Thought Catering and some other beverages that are plentiful to celebrate not only Chicago Dance Month, but also our Dance Builders program. Dance Builders are our annual members who support us with individual gifts, and we are so grateful for them, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later. But right now, I'm just going to share with you a bit of information about Moving Dialogs. If I may, I'd first like to just acknowledge our Moving Dialogues sponsors. And our sponsors for this series include a lead sponsor, the Chicago Seminar for Dance and Performance. And additionally, tonight we are sponsored by a variety of promotional sponsors, including By Brands Juices, which are going to have some tasty samples floating around a little bit later. Wensa's Tequila, which has created these very powerful, potent Juliet Kiss drinks this evening, which I hope you will try. We also want to thank Curb Taxi for the promotion of some $10 taxi rides all over the city during Dance Month. And finally, of course, last but not least, this gorgeous gallery, ARTSPACE 8, which has hosted us this evening and before, and we hope again in the future. So, as I mentioned, this is also not only a discussion that is an ongoing series, Moving Dialogues, it's also part of Chicago Dance Month, where every April, now for our 4th year, we here at Audience Architects want to take dance out into new places and new discoveries. And we really try and promote dance throughout the city and encourage Chicagoans to go see dance during the month of April. So this month, I will tell you a little bit more about it later on in the evening, but I'm thrilled to share that we've had more than 60 performance events take place and numerous companies offering free and open to the public events that have had thousands of participants. So we're thrilled with Dance Month and want to also just acknowledge our Dance Month sponsors, which include the lead sponsor of the Richard H. Driehaus Foundation. Woohoo! We also are thrilled to be working with Crane Chicago Business as our media sponsor, Richard's Eye Design as design sponsor, and additional support for Chicago Dance Month and our other promotional activity throughout the year of the NIV Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Joyce Foundation. So, let's talk about Moving Dialogues for just a second. Moving Dialogues this year is themed around women in the director's chair. And despite the fact that there are lots of women who are participating in the art form of dance, there is a lack of representation of women in leadership roles. This has been noted in articles in the New York Times and Dance Magazine recently, and we wanted to underscore this conversation about gender and the imbalance that seems to be emerging in the field. Throughout this year's series, we're going to be speaking with leading artists about the topic who are reshaping the future and really thinking about dynamic new ways to explore greater equity in gender and leadership. Our panel tonight makes me a little tingly. We really have an all-star lineup for you this evening, who are some of the most highly acclaimed artists in their fields. They are artistic directors, choreographers, master teachers, all of the first rate and the highest caliber. And we're thrilled that they will join us this evening. I'm going to briefly introduce them. Their bios are stellar, and if I read them, then we would just have to go home after we finish reading the bios. So I'm going to give you just a snippet, but I encourage you, we included their full bios in the program that we distributed, and I encourage you to read them in fuller length when you have time. So let's start with Virginia Johnson. Virginia Johnson is Artistic Director of Dance Theater of Harlem. She joined the company in 1969, and for the next 28 years performed numerous principal roles. Her choreographic credits include the television, film, and of course the stage. While still performing, her interest in journalism led her to Fordham University, where she continues to pursue a degree in communications. She founded Point Magazine and was its editor-in-chief from 2000 to 2009. She has many honors, including a Young Achievers Award and the National Council of Women and Outstanding Young Woman of America. Her commitment to community service is maintained through volunteer assignments ongoing with New York Cares. We have Dame Libby Komaiko. She is founder and artistic director of Chicago's internationally acclaimed Ensemble Español Spanish Dance Theater. She founded the company in 1975 and has pioneered the educational significance of Spanish dance and music in the United States. Her artistic contributions to the art form have been hailed throughout the international world, and in 1983, Komaiko was awarded the Ribbon of the Dame by Juan Carlos I, King of Spain, making her the first American to receive this prestigious honor. She has tirelessly choreographed, presented, promoted, and preserved flamenco, folklorico, classical, and contemporary dance and music traditions of Spain. She became Professor Emerita of Northeastern Illinois University Department of Music and Dance Program in 2011. She is joined by Irma Suarez Ruiz. She is Artistic Director of Ensemble Español Spanish Dance Theater and also Spanish dance instructor for the department at Northeastern Illinois. Her formal dance training in classical ballet and Spanish dance began with Dame Libby in 1979. A year later, she was invited to join the company and became first dancer in 1986, where she had Stephanie Martinez, an award-winning Chicago dance artist with over 30 years of professional performing experience on stage, film, and television. She danced for 17 years with River North Dance Chicago. Upon leaving River North, she made her 2009 choreographic debut, Ave Mar, for Luna Negra Dance Theater's 10th anniversary season. Since then, she has been traveling across the country setting works on professional companies and universities. She is one of the 2015 Three Arts Award recipients here in Chicago, which recognizes women in the arts, and completed a residency recently with the Joffrey Ballet as a 2014 Choreographers of Color Award winner. They're amazing. And now allow me to introduce our moderator, our incredibly knowledgeable guide for the evening. He is going to take us, I'm sure, on some very interesting places together. Our moderator this evening is William Whitener, who has performed worldwide and on Broadway with the Joffrey Ballet, Twyla Tharp Dance, Bob Fosse's Dancing, New York City Opera, and Martha Clark. He has choreographed more than 60 works for many of North America's most prestigious ballet companies. Prior to his appointment as artistic director for Kansas City Ballet, William served as the same capacity for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and Les Ballets Jazz de Montreal. William, lead us on this journey of culture and dance. Please take it away.
Let's turn our cell phones off, including me.
Oh,
I can't find it. Anyway, hopefully it won't ring.
You want me to call you?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you to Audience Architects for having me here. I'm delighted and so happy to see students here also. In the course of the conversation that we're having, if we're talking about something that puzzles you and you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll have interjections. But we will have Q&A afterwards. I was kind of wondering how I was picked for this topic, being male. And I came to the conclusion that they did a little research on me, they know me. Aside from being trained by a woman, which I think most dancers are, many of us were, and then had a combination of male and female teachers and coaches. By the time I got to New York, I found a woman teacher, Maggie Black, who was instrumental in keeping us literally on our feet. And then I made a choice to leave the Joffrey and first work with Bob Fosse, but then extensively with Twyla Tharp. So what I hope I can bring to this today is the vantage point of a man working for and with a woman in what I thought at the time was a redefinition of dancing in general, but for me as a classically trained male dancer, what can we bring to the table from Twyla Tharp's point of view? And that was very important in my whole development as an artist. So today, what I'd like to start with all of our guests, is the question, how did you become involved in artistic direction? Or in your case, it's choreography, yes? And artistic direction? No, choreography. But let's start with artistic direction in terms of leadership. And did you know when you were dancing, for instance, was that an aspiration? And was it what you thought it would be? So I'll start down here with Virginia Johnson.
Thank you, William. So it's a question that people often ask if it was something I looked forward to doing as a dancer. And I can remember very clearly so many times as a dancer looking at that person in the front of the room and thinking that you had to have holes in your head to want that job. It was not something that appealed to me in any way, shape, or form, because I could see what a difficult position it was. You're caught in a vise. You have the people in the room that you need to turn into and encourage and bring out the most amazing artistry, and they are human beings, and they are individuals, and they are not always meldable the way that you want them to be meldable. And then you have behind you the people who are paying for all this to happen, who have ideas about what should happen. And then you have the federal government and the state government making rules about how you run your company, and you have the union saying these are the hours that you have to work, and you have the airline saying, in other words, you are caught in the midst of all of these forces, and all you have to do is work on your passion and your love and your belief and why this is important to have in the world, and you have to just move forward with it. So it is a job that I never wanted to do, but when Arthur Mitchell, who was the person who created Dance Theater of Harlem and gave me the life that I dreamed of having for so many years, said to me, I want you to take over, there was no way I could say no.
We can go right down the
Well, I guess you've said it all. I thought I was going into musical theater because I had studied with Dusty O'Donnell. I love musical comedy. My family are all musicians. I grew up in the laundry basket, listening to string quartets and pianos and singing in my crib. But I was the only one that wanted to be in theater and dance and sing and chorus. You know, I had no idea whatsoever. And then I auditioned for the Man of La Mancha. It was the road company, and it was taking place at the Schubert Theater to do the cross-country tour. And I thought, oh, this would be something I would like. Maybe 5 years I could handle it. Then maybe I could be a dance captain or something. And I'm going to get married and have kids and teach. I love teaching. Okay, I'll do this. Do not ever make any plans. I went... I actually began, let's see what happened. I went to watch an audition of the Jose Greco company at the Palmer House with a girlfriend. And I had been in a car accident like about 2 months before with a guy who was not too careful. So I just gotten this thing, what is it, around my head. I was wearing the turtleneck and the hippie boots and the long skirt, and I had my hair in a bun. And Jose Greco was with Nana Lorca, the encyclopedia of Ballet, Español, like his fourth wife, you know. And he said to my teacher, Elisa, you know, does she dance? Does she choreograph? And she does. He said, well, would you like to audition? I said, how am I going to audition? I've never really studied Spanish dance, although my teacher had taught the Cancino, studied with the Cancino thing. I was just learning a little bit. I said, oh, okay, I'll try. So I just followed her. She was magnificent. I just followed what she did. And then Greco said, would you like to go out with us for dinner? No, I have to go home. I was just going to Old Town with my friends. This was in the 70s. And so I got home, and my mother was waiting, they were waiting for me. Well, I'm going out, and I met Jose Greco and the whole thing. Well, my friends were very upset because all night long I was talking about Jose Greco, this, Jose Greco, then. And so I got home at, 12:30 past my curfew time. And I was 18 years, I just had gotten out of high school and was going to junior college to finish everything. And my mother said, well, Elisa had dinner with Jose and he wants you for the company. You're going to be one of the girls that was sitting with you in the company. And being that I was tall and thin, once I got there, my parents drove me down to West Baden, Indiana. And the first person I met was one of the founders of the Ballet Nacional, Juan Mata, and perfecting his English. And I just took it from there, and we did all day long, all day long. We started at 7 o'clock in the morning with breakfast, lectures with Maestro Machado on Spanish music, and then we'd start with the Ballet Español class, then we'd start with the folklore, jumping, and then it was almost 2 o'clock time for lunch and we'd break. Everything was okay up to that. After that, it was flamenco. And after you've done tap and you're trying to switch over, I could not walk down the stairs for about 2 weeks. And I was rooming with one of the women, Isabel Morca, who got the scholarship. And she was saying to me, now you have to go very slowly. And every morning, the phone would ring down the hall. And it was my mother wanting to be sure I wasn't going to run off with a standard and never come home. But little by little, it was like learning everything, learning. Did I think I would ever found a company and be an artist? No, never. I just came to Northeastern. Then after I think I was just married, and I was putting my husband through graduate school. I'd like to do some lecture dance. I'd like to do lecture dance. So my mom was playing the piano, and I would change costume while she's playing a granada to being folklore. Sometimes I had a guitar. I changed costume. Then we had audience participation. We'd have them learn about the palmas and the pigeon. But did I ever believe? No, never. So it just started that way. It just began. I thought, well, will you do a concert at Northeastern? We're having all these companies do concerts. We'd love to have Spanish dancing in concerts. Okay, there were about 8% Latino Hispanos at that time. Now there's 38, 40% Canadians. Things are growing. There's no oceans to cross. Okay, well, I'll set something. So it'll be a robo skit with a cape and the girls with fans. And say, oh, that's wonderful. Can you set something else? All of a sudden, I was teaching 4 courses that I had written at Northeastern, and all my other teaching, I was driving 300 miles a week teaching out to the suburbs, making all kinds of money. But did I ever believe that I would found a company or be artistic director? No, never. I never thought about it. I just kept going, and people would say, well, can't you come do this? I'm busy. I'm working on this. And I just went on and on and on and on until 38 years passed. Here we are. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. I think that's about it. And by the way, my name is Libby Komaiko. It's a Russian-Lithuanian name. It's not really Spanish.
So the question is, did I ever think I would be artistic director? And the answer to that is absolutely not. And I'm sorry that my story will not be as intense as yours, Libby, or yours. My beginnings, I had seen Ensemble Español for the very first time one summer 78. I remember that well. I had seen Ensemble Español for the very first time, which at that time, there were only 5 dancers, plus Libby, plus the guitarist and the singer. This performance that I saw, thanks to my father, who invited me to come and see this concert, who back then he was a member of the Spanish Association. And on the board, exactly. So the performance begins, it had me, no, I'm sitting like this at the edge of my chair at the end of this performance. And then, that is when I decided that I had to be one of those dancers. I just had to. And with great fortune that I was actually enrolled at Northeastern Illinois University for that fall of 78. So I go ahead and I inquire, I sign up for ballet, but what I wanted to do really was just take Spanish dance. But as a dance minor, I had to take ballet and modern and jazz and so on. But I was very fortunate to meet Libby and take classes with Libby. I was there for the academic classes, for the evening workshops. Soon enough, I was able to audition. And that was the most exciting day ever, because that day turned my whole life around. It was a blessing for me. It's become my life. It's the first thing you think of when you wake up, and the last thing that we do at night. Mind you that my partner in crime here, Jorge Perez, and we leave the office. It can be 12, 1 in the morning, because we are so involved in what we're doing in the office, and all this for the love of what we have for Spanish dance. And it will always continue. That is our life. But again, did I ever think I was going to become artistic director? No. I was happy to be dancing next to, back then, the first dancer, Karen Stelling, Frida Peral, Mirna Maldonado. I was just happy to be in the core, in the back, doing exactly what everybody else was doing, but there was something else inside of me that, you know what, I think I can do a little bit more. I need to show myself. I need to prove myself just a little bit more than just being in the core. And I think that Libby saw that in me. So with her help, she pushed me forward. She pushed me to become that dancer that just wanted to excel a little bit more. She believed in me enough to say, you know, you're solo, you can do choreography, you can do this, you can do that. And yes, who knew? Sometimes it takes someone else to bring that out from you, because you don't believe that you can. You sort of do in the back of your mind, but it takes someone else to actually push you to, you know what, you can teach these classes. Remember the nightly workshops? Yes, the classes are yours. Boom. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to teach it? You know what, you learn. And again, so one thing leads to another. So I become first dancer in 1986. I continued to fulfill this role for many, many years, to the point where now I'm associate artistic director. Yikes. It's biting me, because now I have more responsibility. Now I'm not so much at the forefront as for first dancer. Now I have something more to do. And then, even more yikes, I become artistic director. Well, I have, and not that you're free to big, but I have a big set of shoes to fill. Mind you that I have a legacy here to follow, and which in all honesty, I'm honored, I am proud that I am even holding this position. I feel very humbled, and at the same time honored that I'm even sitting here amongst all of you, truly. But again, did I ever think I would be here? No, not in a million years. And that's my story. Thank you.
Pose a different question. I'm just going to back up a little bit.
I had all my answers already.
Oh,
I just think it's just, I agreed to do this because I just wanted to hear these amazing women speak. And even me, I mean, it's incredible just your history. You know?
well, we're going to move on to choreography. Yeah. But I'm just going to back up for a minute, because Jose Greco was mentioned, and I think some of the younger people in the audience might not know who that was. And he was from Brooklyn, as I recall. Born in Brooklyn. And when I was a child, Saul Hurok had tours that came across America. So living in Seattle, that was our exposure. We didn't have a professional ballet company then. And we would see the Moisia, and that was folk dance. We would see Jose Greco's Spanish dance, the Bolshoi Ballet, and that because we had a great entrepreneur in Salt Huron. So for the kids, Jose Greco was a great Spanish dancer. And when you were in dancing schools in Seattle, you could audition to be in the show, even though they were just stopping for a couple of days. If you had a little bit of Spanish dance, you could be in the show, and they would help refine that so that you looked somewhat authentic. Okay, so I think what we've seen is that in terms of leadership in general, that it's often passed on within an organization. That's one way that you can even unexpectedly become a leader. We had that happen here in both cases. But I'm going to switch over for a minute because you're a choreographer, and I'd like to move into the ballet world just for this next portion. And could you tell us what your experience has been in terms of promoting your own work and where the opportunities landed for you and how that came to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I didn't really think that I would be a choreographer, and I thought, I like making things, and that's really where I live, eat, and breathe. But I got my, start with Luna Negra Dance Theater. Eduardo gave me a shop for their 10-year anniversary, and I was really hooked. I thought, when I was a dancer, I liked the process, and as a choreographer, you're always kind of in process. But as far as the ballet world, I feel like for me personally, the greatest thing and the hardest thing, I've had access to it. I think for a lot of people, especially women, it's hard to have access into these ballet companies if you don't come up through the ballet companies. But I also feel that I've, just been welcomed with open arms with a lot of them. I've sent my work, and if there's a lot of no's, there's a lot of no's, but there's some maybes, and sure, why don't you come? And I'm like, okay, great. And that's really, I'm simplifying it, but, I really am a person that is, just out there trying to make work that I believe in companies that speak to me, and ballet I think they're leaving a door open now for women to come in and create, not just a duet, but bigger works. And I've had an actual nice experience with ballet companies. I wish there were more opportunities, but I feel like I can speak for myself that I'm in a good place. And I also feel like, a lot of the women that are choreographing, they start their own companies so they can have a voice. I've seen that, and I feel very passionate about women starting their own companies and doing their thing. And I don't know if, listening to their stories, I don't know if I could actually handle it. I really don't. I can barely take care of myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're in charge of all these people, and there's, there's just so much to do, and I'm thinking, God, I thought I was doing a lot, But did I answer your question?
Well, and I want to stick with you just for a moment. Do you think there's an imbalance in terms of, now I'm in the ballet world. Ballet, for those who are not as familiar with our challenges in the ballet world, we have far more male choreographers than female. It's beginning to change, and I'm going to get to Virginia in a moment about her initiative. But it exists. It's a challenge. It's considered a problem. And what you're saying is that in some instances you've felt welcome, but do you think overall as a woman, have there been any particular red flags, or is there anything that was in your way?
I don't know if there were red flags or something was in my way. I just, again, I go back to having access to those people and then looking at your work if you haven't been with this ballet company or that ballet company. But I feel like it's changing. I do. I feel like they're really opening up and making room for women. And they're different voices, but they're just as important and just as strong. But, it's also the whole, evolution of ballet. And, it was really a male-dominated field when there were all women actually in those companies, but it was run by men. That was my experience. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to stick with this for a minute, and then we'll move on to more general topics. But Virginia and I were talking earlier about what we've observed. There's an article that you could bring up online by the artistic director of Ballet Memphis. Her name is Dorothy Pugh, P-U-G-H. And she did a pretty in-depth study about what it's like to be a female dancer and then move or even aspire towards direction and where the obstacles might be. But in particular, we were talking about choreography. And let me go back just for a moment to directors. Actually, schools were developed by women. Those women in the regional ballet movement moved their companies up to semi-professional status and/or professional status in the 1960s. By the 70s, men, for some reason, we might be able to explore today, were taking on these directorial positions. One of the things that Dorothy said was that men have always been entitled in ballet because their lessons were free, for one thing, mine were, because of the scarcity of the male dancers. So this is a complicated issue, but in terms of choreography, Virginia has begun an initiative that I'd like to hear about with women choreographers.
Sure. So we have just started in this year a new choreographic, it's actually a new cultural initiative that's called Women Who Move Us, to actually just bring the female voice to the ballet stage. Now, that seems very simple. It's not that we don't have female choreographers in ballet. There certainly have been some great ones, Nijinsky, Agnes de Mille. There have been people who've created amazing works. But the norm at this point is that you have the genius choreographer. And for some reason, genius is a word that seems to be a male word. We don't actually think about genius as being including women. And so we have this tradition of saying, I need to find myself a great choreographer. And you look at all the men in the room, and you give them an opportunity, and you give them a chance to workshop and build up. And you don't necessarily exclude the women, but there's the other part where the women don't necessarily step up and say, oh, I want to do this myself. 2 years ago, I created an opportunity for company members to create work for our lecture demonstration for our arts education series. And I had in the room 12 dancers, and 4 of them were women. I was very excited. And as we kept building this project going along, the women actually disappeared from the room. They self-selected out. And I was very puzzled by that. I didn't know what the reason for that was. And some of the things that have come to mind are, yes, the men are expected to choreograph and the women are not. The fact that when you're in a company, even a company as small as Dance Theater of Harlem is, there's a great deal of competition for roles amongst the women. So the women need the women, and actually one of the women I spoke to said, this is my time to dance, and I need to put my concentration in on making myself as a dancer. And so much as I want to be a choreographer, this is not the moment for me to do it. And I could certainly understand that. We have 15 minutes to be a performer, and so you want to get to the highest part of your career as you can. But I think the more powerful part is just this tradition, this expectation that the woman is the subject, she's the object who is worked on and made beautiful, who is the center of attention, and the men who are dancing are supporting that, and that behind the scenes you have your puppeteer, and that puppeteer is a male. It's a very large traditional, cultural thing that we need to start unpacking. And so Women Who Move Us is about unpacking that. We had the wonderful opportunity this year to bring in Elena Kunikova, who created a classical work for Dance Theater of Harlem. She's a ballerina who danced with the Mikhailovsky Theater in Russia and has been here setting works by Petikov for many years. And I've been talking with Elena for a long time about bringing a classical work to Dance Theater of Harlem. And finally I just said, well, you know, you've been living in this life, in this field all of your life. Why don't you make a work? Why do you need to set somebody else's work? And Elena created a very delightful new work for Dance Theater of Harlem from her own aesthetic, was using the classical vocabulary, many things that are very much part of our world. She was trying to make a little commentary on our world as dancers, but it was a beautiful work using this vocabulary. We also brought in Diane McIntyre, who is a goddess of the modern dance world, who's created so many important works. She was a choreographer that I watched for many years, doing statement works in the 1970s and 1980s about what it was to be a female choreographer, using this modern dancing, using her own voice. So I thought that it would be very important to bring Diane into Dance Theater of Harlem, because I want ballet also to be more reflective of the broad way that people can move and express ideas. And the first thing that Diane said to me when she came in was, and it's going to be on point. So she decided that this platform, this form of work should be about what is it to use my language in a new way, and to work with the restriction, because certainly point work is a restriction, of dancing on the tips of their toes. And so there were many parts of the rehearsal where we had to do negotiations. Well, this is the idea, but how do you actually make it work? Women Who Move Us is about creating opportunity to bring the female voice into the world of ballet. Because, as William says, there are not many people who are actually addressing the vocabulary of ballet. And there are very few female choreographers who are addressing the world of ballet, the vocabulary of ballet. So it's something that I want to do for the company, but I also want to do it as part of our school, so that our young ladies, our young ones, are going to look in the front of the room and see that the person in the front of the room is a woman, and the person who's making dances is a woman.
How many young dancers are here? Could you raise your hands? How many not so young dancers are here? Well, I'd like to continue with this thought, but I'd open it up to all dance forms and change the subject to the topics that are in dance, the women's roles, and how deeply have we described women in our various dances, in our various dance forms. And from our students, I'd like to know what you'd like to see on the stage. Let's start thinking about that. You know, what would inspire you in a performance? What kind of dancing by women and the characters that they might portray? So I'm going to go back to Virginia, and we can, I think, move down the line with this about storytelling and women's roles in dance, the traditional and the more current.
So that's I always wanted to be a ballerina because I wanted to have the pink dress on, and I wanted to be right there in the middle of the stage with the spotlight on me. And I thought that's what actually ballet was all about. That was the whole point of it. It was very wonderful. The repertoire of Dance Theater of Harlem was very diverse, and I actually got to be the girl in the pink dress in the spotlight, but I also got to be the axe murderess in Fall River Legend. So through these experiences the repertoire of Dance Theater of Harlem, I realized that there were so many different things that we could say about what it was to be a woman on the stage. And I think very much now, when you look at contemporary dancing, whether it's ballet and I'm not so familiar with Spanish dancing, but you understand that women are now allowed to be powerful in ways that they weren't allowed to be before. That you weren't just the decoration, but now you can be actually the source. And so that's one of the things that I want to bring to the stage. I want to bring a sense of equity to the characters on the stage. I think that ballet is so very ritualized in terms of this is the type of person that you see a woman being, and this is the type of person you see a man being. That I'd like to see us maybe explore the way that we as human beings are in the 21st century, where we have to play many different roles in our lives. So that's the kind of thing I'd like to bring.
Well, thank you. In Spanish dance, women play a very important role. Women are very accentuated, and it's all about stories. It's all about the legends and the stories. So, beginning with Carmen Amaya, the famous Pavlova, who made holes in the floor with her feet, who was 4'10" and was kicked out of school because her knuckles were too loud on the desk. That she was amazing, and they would sing and dance, and the films that have been done. And then there was Argentina and Pilar Lopez, but there was the Iglesias coming. There were men and women, and there's always been the masculine, feminine role. They've crossed over as things have gotten more modern. Things have crossed over, but there have always been. It's really drama. It's really a dramatic art form, or it can be happy, it can be sad, and it's based on in flamenco, because there's classical, there's folklore, and there's flamenco, and now contemporary's gone in with it as well. But there's always a drama in the story, or there's a story about, or it's about the song. It's about what the song is saying, the cante, and it's very important. In flamenco, usually there are men guitarists, but now there are women guitarists as well. The soul of flamenco is the song, it's the heartbeat. And the guitar is the blood rushing through your veins. It's like that. It's like that. And then with every single of the, 49 provinces in Spain and all of the islands around, where did they come from? Did they come from, well, Hispanico? Did they come from Portugal? Did they come from Africa? Did they come from, where did they come from? Did they come from different groups of people when they kicked all the Jews out of Russia and Lithuania? Where did they come from? Where did all these come from? And all the songs, some of them are very, the Petanera is like a spooked song. It's like the gypsy or the gypsy, you're gonna die if you sing this. Who danced it? Irma and Whitener danced it. I mean, it's so embedded with female and feminine and masculine. And even, we have dances that begin, it's all about the essence of women in the beginning, and then the next part comes and the next section comes. It's that way. And creating the dances, choreographing the dances is exciting. It's a very exciting thing because for me, I just looked at the dancers that I had. I love whatever music there was there. Take that, how can I do this? Okay, let's begin here. And that's how it begins. But it's a little bit different. I know in the ballet world, it's a little bit different. And I remember when the Winnipeg used to come to town, they always needed extra dancers. I always signed up and who's 5'6" feet, and then you have to walk down those heavy stairs, hanging on to the guy for dear life so you don't fall. But I love being in the ballet. I think Nureyev was in one of the, in one of the ballets of the Sleeping Beauty, and he touched my face, and my mother said, "How was it?" I said, "I'm not washing my face." I'm not washing my face. But that basically, that's how so thank you.
We have to do a little adjustment here. Here we go. Okay, so we were talking about storytelling from, well, let's say a woman's point of view, or a woman choreographer having full reign with the cast. But what do you see happening in the future?
happening in the future. Women continuing to choreograph as powerfully as they are right now. I was listening to Libby. It's like, how much more can I say? She's already said it all. Just she mentioned petenera. For us, petenera in Spanish dance is it's a palo, meaning a dance type in the flamenco style. Yes, Jorge and I were chosen to do this number by Libby, and it's the portrayal of a Jewish woman who is scorned, yes, and who seduces the men. And at the end, and I'm sorry that I end up actually killing Jorge, but it is such a strong character, something that you think through dance, how am I going to make this happen? You make it happen. You, again, and I go back to the director, believing in the dancers that she's chosen for such pieces. So here you have a dance that is so strong, and something that you have to see. I promise you'll enjoy this. It's strong. It's a strong character, and then we have different characters in other types of dances. Then you go into that happiness. Yes, you go into an alegría, which the word itself just means happiness. We have to be able to change from one emotion to another. And I think men do too, but women, we just have this sense of being able to portray this. Why? Because we are challenged, because there are other women in the corps, because, oh, I want to be that one in the spotlight, which I think we all wanted to do that, be in the spotlight at one time or another. So I hope I've answered your question, but again, I feel that Libby answered everything. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think now I'm focusing on your work in the ballet world in particular because, as I said, that has been male-dominated until I think recently there have been some inroads or more inroads. Do you see it as an opportunity to tell the stories of women, now I'm talking the ballet world, in ways that might not have been done, or to empower them in ways that you might not have seen?
Yeah, I absolutely do. You know, when I walk into the room, unlike people that have their, artistic directors that have their own companies, they know who they're working with. You know, when I go in, I know they're going to be amazing, they're professionals, but I really don't know what's going to happen, which is exciting and terrifying all in one. But I do go in, and I always want to, I'm a little bit of a hybrid from everybody that I've studied with, from Gus Giordano to, Larry Long to Claire Pata. I mean, so I have all these tools, and I go in, and I don't even know if I really thought about it like this, but I always make the women very powerful. I never have them in roles, I think I choreographed, how I danced. I always wanted to be, the beautiful, floating through the air. They're like, no, you're going to throw yourself on the ground, and you're going to do this. And, so I think I choreograph with that spirit, with that empowerment towards women, and also for the men, too. I mean, I really choreograph the heartbeat of what I feel that is happening in my life today, and these are real people. They have real emotions. And that's the kind of thing I draw out of them. I also am very clear about the environment that I'm in, when I'm choreographing, and we talk about that. And I use the dancers as well. I let them have a voice, which I think is a little bit newer in the ballet world, and some are really open to it. Other ballet dancers are like, no way, Jose, I want my steps. So it just depends on where I'm at. But I always lead with my positive foot when I go into the room, and usually I'm pleasantly surprised about what comes out and how diverse the dancers are. They're classical, but they can get on the floor and do contemporary. I mean, they're really open and trained in a way that I and open that I didn't think that they would be, you know, depending on the company that I'm in, especially with the Kansas City Ballet. Those guys could do anything. I was just like, whoa, very impressed. Did I hit those points? Okay.
So, students in particular, so don't be shy. I'm wondering with the students, when you go to performances, can I engage you in conversation? Do you find that the women performing are they performing roles that intrigue you, that you're curious about, that are in some way making you really think? Or do you find it's limited and they're not as complex as you would hope? Does anybody have any thoughts on that, especially our students? Or guys also. Yeah. We're focusing on women today, but do you go to are you able to go to performances? Did my question make sense? Yeah. Could you just speak up from that? Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, stand up. Yeah.
My name is Tatiana.
Oh, you have a mic. Good.
Thank you. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Well, when you go to a performance, do the women's roles speak to you personally, from what you're seeing?
Well, recently, as a class, we went to their performance, and it was very powerful. Even though, like, it wasn't, like, it was spoken, they was telling the story through dance, and we could, like, and after the dance, we had an open discussion about it, so it was really powerful and something I've never seen before.
And could you relate to the female characters? Did they represent people in your life or people you might like to know?
Well, one dance, it represented my mother in a way, and that really spoke to me.
Mothers. Probably grandmothers. Did anyone else have any comments about women as they're being portrayed in dance? Yes.
Hi, my name is Kendrick. To me, a female dancer kind of resembles a male dancer because they're strong. Inside of them inside of them are strong, and it resembles from the outside because they perform, and it's like their whole body explains a lot more than most men dancers. So that's what I see.
Oh, you think so?
I think you're saying you're more emotional.
Oh, more emotional? More expressive.
More expressive.
More expressive.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Taylor, and okay, I can't do this. So what I think is what you were talking about with the, when you said the X, you had the women as the X. I saw something like that before, and when they're portrayed as, strong, it really, gets to me because some shows that I go to, especially like ballet, they don't, they do the points and they don't really get to pick up people, that's a sense of strength, and I don't see that a lot. So it's like a sense of strength that I don't see sometimes in women that I want to see more.
So do you mean in ballet that the man is often supporting the woman? That's what you mean in terms of when being lifted and...
Yeah, I don't usually see a woman, holding another woman.
Okay, good subject matter, and how we... So in contemporary dance, and in jazz, and in particular modern dance, sometimes on Broadway, we do see more same-sex pairings. And in ballet, we see some, and it's a hot topic. I was talking last night to a friend about the point shoe. And if you're wearing a point shoe, and Virginia can tell us something more about this, you don't have traction. And working parallel in a point shoe is a very different thing than working turned out. They're designed to go up in a turned out position. It's not designed really to be parallel like a modern dancer or a jazz dancer. So my personal feeling is a woman has a certain disadvantage just by wearing that shoe, and it's designed also for her to levitate, and the man is going to make her lighter than air, as you were saying. You'd like to see, you were saying, in ballet also, that two women could dance together, and that's challenging, not only because of the shoe, but let's take it back to the panel. And Virginia, could you talk a little about that shoe?
Happily would talk about that shoe. So actually, William, you know, I don't agree about, okay, I 100% agree. You know, a point shoe is, it's like you're in the Qing dynasty and your feet are bound. Your feet are completely constrained by this bit of satin and glue and leather, and it is something that is a restriction. The closeness of your foot inside the shoe is completely the opposite of the bare foot that can feel the floor and embrace the floor, in a sense that your hand can open to be on the floor and it can close. It can only be closed in a point shoe. It can only be closed in a point shoe. But that's just the shoe. That's the way that's the thing that you have to deal with. You can work in parallel in a point shoe. You can learn to put your weight in that shoe in a way that will enable you to feel the force of the energy going down as much as you have the idea of the force of the energy going up. You know, it's not normal ballet technique. It's not what we're spending a lot of time teaching our young people to do, but it's something that we need to start understanding how that foot can be in that shoe, to be on the ground. Diane, you know, when she was working with Diane McIntyre, when she was working with the dancers, trying to figure out what was possible on point, was also asking for them to understand what it is to be into the floor inside that shoe. And it was it's a journey of discovery for the dancers to come to that point. But to me, it seems like it's completing the circle. You know, ballet is about aspiration. I used to say that being on point is the closest you can get to flying without leaving the ground, because it is an upward motion, and everything about it is about that upward motion. But, you know, as a woman, as a human being, as a female, you also have to feel the earth, because that's where your support comes from. You know, men are working on point in some companies. So we're in a new era. We're in a new time where we have these devices that have been used in a certain way for a particular length of time that we can look again at and see what it is that we want to say. You know, this young lady who spoke so well about, you know, ballet, they're lightweight. Well, yeah, that was the ideal. They were going to be sylphs and fairies, and they used to dance with wires and literally fly, because this is the image that ballet wanted to present in the 19th century. What is the image that ballet wants to present in the 21st century? And I think it is a much more inclusive one. But we have to get our choreographers to make these works.
And what about women partnering women while wearing shoes?
Well, you know, our friend Diane actually had some of that in there too.
Right? Yeah.
You know, I think that ballet is a language, and it is something that you're using to express an idea. And if the idea is a sisterhood, then the idea of a woman partnering another woman is part of you know, we support each other. We support each other emotionally and sometimes physically. And so if that gets put into a ballet, then why not?
Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm just,
I'm
agreeing with affirming. It's true.
Did we have other questions? And I think we are segueing naturally into questions and answers. Subjects? Yes.
Okay, so my question is, like, Stephanie mentioned earlier that she's seen people moving into like the whole director of their own company type thing to be able to have a voice that's heard. I'm one of those crazy people. But actually, I kind of segued into, I've worked with mostly youth and I've performed my entire life, and it's actually just been in the past couple of months that I've kind of changed my career choices and became a choreographer for professional companies, really put myself out there, auditioned for a ton of things, applied for a ton of things, and got a lot of yeses, which is great, and I feel very blessed. But this also came along with several people backing up what it is that I want to do as a director, what it is that I want to do to run a company, and in less than a month, I think it was that I have a board of directors, and we're waiting for our non-for-profits approval, so which is great. Again, like I'm one of those crazy people who's trying to do choreograph and courageous people. Thank you. I like that. Thank you. How do you kind of just keep the inspiration alive and the drive alive? Because I mean, I love this. Like the studio is home to me, and the reason that I'm doing this, why I founded this company, is very, very like I strong beliefs in it, and that's why I do have people backing me up and being like, yes, we're going to be your board of directors. Yes, we're going to throw some money at the situation. But, you know, on a day-to-day, like, sometimes it's really hard to just go in there and be like, okay, this is my heart on my sleeve. This is my choreography that I'm giving to other people. Like, how do you keep your inspiration alive, keep your drive alive to keep doing that? I don't want to do this for a month. I want to do this forever.
How you do it? You just have to keep going. And if you work with the dancers, in the creative process, in the choreography, I always use the dancers I had, and then they would get some ideas or make a mistake on a step that I gave. That's pretty good. Or I give something very difficult, and then we leave at 10 o'clock at night, I come back the next day and I say, who gave you that stuff? You did. It's hard. Do you have any suggestions? And the dancers would say, well, could we start this way or start that way? And then I think about it and invert it and pull it back in. Think about the question, think about it. You know, all right, try this, try that. And sometimes it takes a few days just to get a very small part done. And then all of a sudden everything flows and finishes. But if the music is in your head and the idea of what the movement is going to be and the story, it's all good. But the dancers have got to be involved in the process. And the longer you keep the dancers involved in the process, you're great. Once you have all the choreographies done, and then you have to redo them and teach them to other people and transmit them, then that's another, well, it doesn't mean they don't change, because our cells are changing, every 3 minutes, and then you look at it again a year later and go, oh, this would be better. Try that, try this. It's not just that it's the same as it's on the videotape. No. Because you're going to look at it and you're going to see more and more and more and see what the dancers look like. Oh, they look better. Okay, try this, try that. And keep placing it, keep pushing it ahead. That's what keeps it going. And because you're in love with it.
One of my other questions had to do with choreographic development programs within companies for those starting out. And an accompanying subject would be mentoring. So where is your question about starting a company, how do you sustain it? Do you have a mentor?
I have a couple, fortunately. I'm actually new to the Chicago dance world, so it's still kind of finding opening doors and meeting new people as far as that's concerned. And I've been very, very, very fortunate to meet some incredibly inspiring people who have just kind of like led me down the right path and have supported my ideas and my vision so much that I do feel like I'm in good, capable hands, which is fantastic. But to have a specific mentor who is guiding me and holding my hand through this, I would have to say no, which is probably why I'm, how do I sustain this inspiration, this drive on a daily basis? And not find myself in a point where I'm getting like burnout or frustrated or feel like I'm in the wrong place.
Twyla Tharp called her support group, a squad.
Oh,
Squad,
I like
squad
it.
of support, and it's so necessary to find that because the challenges are constant and unexpected, as any of our
Yay!
panelists can tell you. So, mentorship, yeah, very important. But let's talk just a little bit about the programs that might exist where the choreographer can develop under the tutelage and guidance of experienced professionals, artistic directors, other choreographers. And are we putting in place, in particular for women, programs that would help them develop into positions of leadership, both as choreographers and directors? Have you had that experience?
I do know that there are programs that develop voices within the companies. I don't think it's targeted towards women, but now I know of one, which is very exciting. But I think they kind of leave it open, and you know, Hubbard Street has one, Inside Out, and they give the dancers an opportunity to create on each other. And it's usually pretty even, like the men and the women do it. It's been very successful. I don't know. I know, I'm drawing a blank, but I know that there's some companies that do foster those voices, but I don't think there's anything except for tonight, the one I've heard of, that is really geared towards women voices, which, you know, it's exciting because there's room for it. You know, there's a need for it. We're talking about it here, so that's the good news.
Okay, sure. So in Ensemble Español, what we do here is we offer opportunities to our dancers. They have the opportunity to choreograph. Obviously, there's a process that goes along with that. They need to present their music. It needs to be approved. We need to see the process so that we may give them feedback. You know what, I think you need to go this way or that way. They show their final product, we okay it, and now here we're starting this choreographic process with our own dancers. But we can go as far back as students who also have an opportunity to do this. Where, well, we have wonderful programs. We have an After School Matters program where our students who, are you familiar with After School Matters? Yes. Are you in it? Yes. Okay, great. So it's a great job, isn't it? Yes. This is a program where actually the students actually get paid to work in the arts and eventually perform. So this is where I'm getting at. So, and I'm pretty sure that within your program that are you giving the opportunity to choreograph? That is what happens with us. The students, you know, aside from us, the instructors, the teachers, giving you the choreography, setting this because we're going to present, we have a performance to do. You also have the opportunity to come up with something yourself, and not just you, but to have a group. Okay, so we'll break you up into 3 groups. Everyone has to choose their music. Everyone has to choose in a collaborative way, of course. Everyone has to okay this. Well, let's do this. This other group is going to take on another theme. This other group is going to do the same, something different. And before you know it, you've already created something from the very start. And I think this is where that opportunity is flourishes, where we give the students, we give the children the opportunity to excel, and we're better. After School Matters is an awesome program, yes. And then we go even further back. We go to the little ones whom we teach, starting at 4 years old, who start learning about not just steps in our case, in the 3 styles of Spanish dance, but they actually learn a little bit of the history that goes along with that. And before you know it, now they've gone out of one class, they learn a little bit more, they go into another class where now they're a little bit older and they continue to learn this. But even through all of this, you'll see the little children already trying to put little steps together, and they think They think they have it all. They look as cute as a button. But I believe that starting then, you start this choreographic process going. I know that I had that before Ensemble, before, when I was a child, I've always loved dancing. In my head, there was always, if I heard a piece of music that just, boom, just struck me, right away my wheels started turning. And I would imagine myself in that spotlight, me. But as I've gotten older, of course, and I'm in the position that I'm at now, the wheels are turning, but now it's not just me. Now it's either, I see, oh, these two dancers, I know that they can pull this off. I know that they can do this. And then it doesn't stop there. Now, oh my God, let me add more dancers to this. And and the wheels just keep turning, and before you know it, you've created a piece that is just, perhaps that vision that you had to begin with, but there's a process to all that, and I think it begins, when you're this high, okay? And again, kudos to you for being in the After School Matters program. That's.
Are there other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Yes. There's one. Oh, she just raised her.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know about Urban Bushwoman. Urban Bushwoman's out of Brooklyn, and they have a female choreographic project, just for females of color, for choreography. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
So I might be taking crazy pills. I actually don't believe that there's a lack of representation of women in dance. I think there's a lack of representation at a particular budget size. So if I had a question, it'd be sort of, what's that about? And, I think this panel is really well crafted because it speaks to women who have sort of burst through that budgetary barrier. But we've got 200 dance companies in Chicago. Many of them are led by women. So I don't actually feel like there's a huge dearth of women who want to lead or women who want to make dances. I think it's like how to get them above the bubble and into the place where dance is talked about outside of the dance community. And, you bring up Agnes de Mille and everything, and I think these are important figures. I read a new book, History of Ballet, 3 women, and no people of color are mentioned. And I don't think that's a problem with the author. I think it's a problem with dance. Well, but I think it's not particular to her, right? It's not particular to her. So I sort of have a curiosity about what we do with companies of a particular budget size to increase the visibility of women who are already leading.
I would say based on that, I have never been paid for any choreography, anything I've ever done of the Ensemble Español. People are doing this out of love. I had a teaching job, so that's what I lived, that's what I worked with. It's not about that. The budgetary is not, it should be. If you think after 40 years, I've never been paid for one choreo. I got grants from the National Endowment. What did I have to use them on? Costumes and to pay the dancers for rehearsing. Is there anything left? No. There's nothing left for me. Well, I have a teaching job, so I'm going to take the money from them. It works that way. So many times. It doesn't matter how high up you get. There's no budget. If there's no budget, there's no budget.
You have a good point, though. I don't think it's just in dance. It's in the arts in general when you get into those big budgets. If you look at the city of Chicago, the Lyric Opera, the CSO, the Auditorium Theater, the Harris Theater, they're all run by men. So when you do get to that level, I'm just saying in general, the Joffrey Ballet, the Hubbard, it is very true. So how do we ever break that barrier? Ladies?
We...
I want to know.
And thank you for bringing that up. As I was organizing the panel, I realized that there's 2 very different subjects here. One is dance in general, which, as I said in the beginning of the evening, most of us trace our roots back to women in any form of dance, actually. It's as we move through time that we see these changes. Hopefully Renee Fleming will take on a big position at the Lyric Opera. Can only hope. Yeah. But I think we have an understanding amongst us that it's almost two conversations. And the money is in ballet. It's not really in modern dance, or it's in Broadway. Now I did talk to women on the street. When I knew I was doing this panel, I would run into people. So I ran into Ruiz Steinberg, who is an associate artistic director, I believe that's her title, at Juilliard, and a renowned dancer. And one of her questions was, how are women affected by having worked for men as they take on directorial positions? So only Virginia is in that position, as was Judith Jamison. And then Bonnie Brooks, who is here, we pointed out to me, well, isn't that interesting that Alvin Ailey and Arthur Mitchell saw that women should follow them. So there's some progress, yes. But I really appreciate that you're bringing that up, because it is particularly a problem in ballet. And Twyla Tharp says outright it is unfair, skewed, sexist. What's the word we used to use in the 70s? Yeah, all of those. There's that other one that starts with a C. Anyhow, how are we doing for time? We're okay. And one of the other women on the street was Anne Reinking, who I happened to be in New York, and we grew up together in Seattle. And I asked her, I kept asking women around New York, what's your experience been? She said pay equity on Broadway was not the same. And I don't think she meant just as a dancer. Yeah, so there is inequity. Well, we know it's in many fields, but we do see it in the arts, largely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Judge Bonnie, could you mention what you told me today about the Ford Foundation initiative?
Oh, interesting.
I think that's really, really.
Well, that was my most recent inquiry at the dancer named Donna Cowan. And we were in the Joffrey Ballet in the 70s. And she said one day, maybe you remember this, Jay, but one day, some women were pulled into Robert Joffrey's office with the executive director and told that they were getting a pay increase. Donna's pay increase was going to be $50 a week. That was a lot. I mean, we negotiated very small raises as dancers. We weren't even really prepared to negotiate our own salaries. She was getting this $50 a week. As it turned out, the Ford Foundation had gone through the books at the Joffrey, which was, I'm talking about Joffrey in New York, and saw the inequity in pay. And they said, before we deliver this grant, you've got to fix that. So that's way back in the early 70s that happened. Now, my theory is that our late, great ballerina Rebecca Wright was on a path to get equal pay. We all knew that. She was very vocal about it. And she was told, well, we pay men more because they have families. Now, it was the early 70s. We had a ways to go, early 70s. I would not be surprised to discover that Rebecca Wright knew someone on the Ford Foundation, or knew how to get to them. Anyhow, yes.
I just wonder if this is something about changing the culture about the way we think of ourselves as artists. When I started a dance company 20 years ago, I did not consider myself to be an entrepreneur. But I am an entrepreneur. I managed to maintain a business for 20 years. But that's something that I learned over time. It's not something that I was taught when I was training to be a dancer. So it feels like a cultural change that needs to happen, that we need to make happen as artists. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is where we are. We're at the beginning of something incredible. We have these very traditional, this art form, these art forms of dance have been in a particular way for 400 years, for 1,000 years. We have a way of seeing ourselves representing our cultures in a particular way, a culture that is actually a patriarchy, where we understand the role of the woman and the role of the man, where we understand the role of the artist and the role of the business person, and we think as if they are divided off from each other, that they're separate. And if we're going to make this world work in the future, we're going to have to break down those walls and understand what it is that makes something work. What it is that makes a dancer succeed, what is that makes a company succeed, and not assign the roles that we have been always assigning. I'm going to look to the guy to solve this problem. Let's look to the women to solve the problem as well. I'm going to look to the women to be that part of the story. Why don't we look to the men to be that part of the story? We have an opportunity now where we are starting to question the way that we've been doing business on this long period of time, and we have the opportunity to change it. Yes, there are women who have been doing this. The young woman who has boldly started her own company now. This is a moment in time that you need to seize the ownership of possibility, that you don't have to ask permission to do it, that you have the strength and the power and the capability and the assistance around you, that yes, you need to have a squad of people that are going to support you and you're going to be able to turn to in those terribly dark nights when there's not enough money and you have 7 more problems to solve. You need to have a squad that's going to help you remain creative in the art form, because you know the business of being a company is going to drag you down away from it. So it really is about redefining who you are and your capabilities and making sure that you have the support around you to make it happen. And we can't rely on it's always been this way, because it can't be that way anymore.
I can't think of a finer way to wrap this up. Hear, hear to what Virginia said. Thank you to our guests. We have treats.
I'm going to say a couple words first, sorry, before everybody gets going.
Oh, sorry.
So yes, thank you to our lovely panelists and William for moderating for us this evening. I appreciate it. I would also love to thank our sponsors once again. The Chicago Seminar on Dance and Performance, Wansa's Tequila by Brands, who's over there now, and Curb, and of course ARTSPACE 8. Before we start, a couple announcements about upcoming performances. Chicago Dance Month on Federal Plaza. Celebrate Chicago Dance Month by joining us this Friday for Audience Architect's final performance event. April 29th, this Friday, is International Dance Day, and we'll be performing from 4:30 to 6:15. We have 10 of Chicago's top companies performing and a lot of treats. We also are offering a chance to win one of our Chicago Dance Month wellness packages. You can sign up for our newsletter on that little table over there, and you'll be automatically entered to win a new Fitbit or a 10-class package along with a 60-minute massage from Exhale Spa. We'll be announcing the winners at our event this Friday, so please come celebrate with us. Later this year, there are opportunities to see work by tonight's wonderful panelists. Ensemble Español, Spanish Dance Theater, will be at the Auditorium Theater on Saturday, June 4th at 7:30. They are one of 5 dance companies performing at Chicago Rhythm Fest and will be performing a piece titled El Gazara. Is that correct? Okay, sorry. Choreographed by Jose Barrios. Then on Thursday, September 29th, Ensemble Español opens the Auditorium Theater's Made in Chicago dance series. This will be their 40th anniversary performance, and they will be performing Bolero, choreographed by Dame Libby Komaiko, and Mil Clavos by Ron De Jesus. Ensemble Español will be closing their 40th season with their American Spanish Dance and Music Festival Flamenco Passion Concerts at the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie on June 17th, 18th, and 19th before heading out on their premiere tour in Spain in August. Later in the season, Dance Theater of Harlem will be coming to the Auditorium Theater with performances on November 18th, 19th, and 20th, with a master class on Saturday, November 19th. This performance will be part of the Auditorium Theater's International Dance Series. Dance Theater of Harlem will be performing a Midwest premiere of the new unnamed one-act ballet by choreographer Francesca Harper, performed with a live Chicago-based string quartet
with music by American composer John Adams. Harper's piece is being created in a collaborative manner with the Dance Theater of Harlem dancers and explores artists' reaction to the social situation in America, specifically on the topics of race, gender, and economics. So put those dates in your calendar. My lovely assistant, Catherine, has surveys, and we would really appreciate it if you took the time to fill those out. So now please join us for this reception of the artists. At 8 o'clock, Heather will be back with more information about our Dance Builders membership program and our exciting plans for the rest of the year. Thank you.
Good, how are you? Yes.